Hey, what's going on, everyone? And I am back again to do another Overlord Q&A. I'm looking forward to making this chill video, just going through the comments section, answering questions about Overlord to all of my beautiful viewers that want to learn more about this amazing series. So if you guys saw my last post, I decided to make the first 5 Q&As that I did into a movie. I think I'll do that like every 5 if we get to like really high numbers. Apparently, it's easier to listen to like long form stuff like that if it's in the movie format. So some people like requested that, so I just thought I'd do it. But we can expect one of those like every 5. I think this is number 9, and so we've done quite a few of them, and it doesn't look like it's showing any signs of slowing down anytime soon. So with all that being said, you guys know the drill, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so starting us off, I did have a super thanks question that I did want to address first. So Pantheon8728 donated $10. Thank you very much for that generous donation. Do you remember the monster Ainz summoned in episode 1 of the anime for Mara and Ore to fight for fun? If that monster somehow appeared in the middle of places like the Riestes Kingdom, the Bahamut Empire, or the Robo Holy Kingdom, or maybe the Slain Theocracy, would it be a big problem for them? So the monster you're referring to that Ainz summoned in episode 1 is a Primal Fire Elemental, and he summoned it through the Staff of Ainz Gon because that's one of the summoning spells that it has embedded into it. So that's the monster, and would it be a big problem for those countries that you listed? Yes, it would. Primal elementals of any element, I believe, are level 87. That is a huge level for the New World. That is a massive level. There's very few beings in the New World that surpass that level. The Riestes Kingdom, the Bahamut Empire, the Robo Holy Kingdom, all 3 of those countries would have a massive problem with dealing with them. I don't know if the Slain Theocracy would, because it's still a lower level than Anteline or Zeshi, whatever you want to call her. I'm pretty sure Zeshi could handle it, but Zeshi is like the trump card of the Slain Theocracy, so they have to use their nuclear weapons to deal with a primal fire elemental, so it would still be considered a big threat to the Slain Theocracy. To answer your question, yes, it would be a huge problem, almost an insurmountable problem for the first 3 countries, and a big problem for the Slain Theocracy, though I think they could still handle it because of Zeshi. Oh, this question goes hand in hand with the Staff of Ainz Gon, which I mentioned earlier. Does the Staff of Ainz Gon have any skills like the Scythe of Surshana? Try saying that 5 times fast. Holy crap. Zeshi wielding it is a scary thought. Zeshi's talent doesn't access skills that the Scythe itself has. The reason Zeshi is able to use the goal of all life is death is because she has Surshana's weapon, and Surshana himself was able to use the goal of all life is death. Zeshi is able to use her talent to use the skills of a person who previously wielded the weapon that she's holding, which is Surshana's scythe. So in this case of the Staff of Ainz Gon, if Zeshi had the Staff of Ainz Gon, theoretically, she would be able to use all of Momonga's skills. However, I think the Staff of Ainz Gon is actually restricted. Only Ainz can wield it. And that's why Ainz was so worried about Inferius talent, because Inferius talent lets him use any magic item without penalty. So that's why Ainz was a little concerned about Inferius. As for the second part of the question, does the Staff of Ainz Gon have any skills? It doesn't have skills, but it has spells and powers like built into it. So the way I remember the description is it has the 7 gems in the top of the cup kind of part of it, at the top of it, and each of those 7 gems is one of the elements from Yggdrasil: fire, wind, or air, I think, water, earth, time, sun, and moon. Those were the elements that were in Yggdrasil. And basically all of those gems and also the staff itself have like spells embedded into them that the spell can access. As for like its effects, I believe it has an effect where it amplifies Ainz's auras, because I remember in volume 1, he was holding the staff and his despair aura actually had an effect on the NPCs because he was holding the Staff of Ainz Gon, whereas before it wouldn't, because they have fear immunity or fear resistance, or high enough to resist the despair aura. And it also allows the wielder to access like admin privileges for the Great Tomb of Nazarick. That's what he used the staff for in episode 1 when he rewrote Albedo's settings. The staff allowed him to do that. They're not really skills, they're more of like effects in that they enhance the user's racial skills, and they also grant admin access to a lot of the inner workings of the Great Tomb of Nazarick. But as for the second part, I don't think Zeshi could actually use it like that, because it can only be used by Ainz, which is why he was so afraid of Inferius talent, because it bypasses the restrictions that the Staff of Ainz Ooal has on it. We haven't really seen the staff at full power yet, so we don't know the full limits of its capabilities, but that's probably the best way to answer that question. Great question on something that's a little more obscure. Why was the leader of the 13 heroes a low-level player? Also, if he got transported, does that mean he held a world item even as a low-level player? There's a little more information that goes into that. So the way Evil Eye explained it is that the leader of the 13 heroes, he started off as the weakest member of the group, and he wasn't the leader then, but he eventually became the strongest member of the group and then became their leader. So he started off weak, not their leader, became the strongest, became their leader. As for the second part of your question, it's entirely possible that he had a world item in Yggdrasil. I mean, you could just stumble upon world items in Yggdrasil. It wasn't like you were restricted, like, oh, low-level people can't even access world items. It wasn't like that. Like, so it's not outrageous to think that a low-level player could get a world item. And the general accepted consensus amongst the community for how the teleportation actually works is that it was linked to world items, and that you had to have like a world item, or there was something to do with world items that caused the teleportation to the new world to actually happen. It hasn't been confirmed, but that's like the general theory that most people kind of accept in the Overlord community, I think. So yes, he was a low-level player, but he grew and became the strongest and then the leader after that. And also, being low-level didn't necessarily restrict your access to world items in Yggdrasil, so long as you just went out and looked for them. Here's a question. Are Fluder's eyes able to see the total amount of mana someone has, or the current amount? For example, if he sees Ainz without the ring that hides his mana, does he see all of his mana, or the mana he currently has after using his spells? So actually, my understanding of Fluder's talent is different than that. My understanding for how Fluder and Arshay, I believe they had the same exact talent. The way the anime displayed it kind of made it look like this overwhelming power, like an aura thing. There's a spell in Yggdrasil called a Mana Essence, which lets you see the MP of the person you're looking at. I don't think the talent functions that way. It's a different thing. It lets you see what tier of magic they're capable of. And so when they looked at Ainz, they saw this booming aura because he's capable of using 10th tier magic, which is, you know, unheard of in the new world at the current time. So in your question, you asked, would he be able to tell the difference between Pandora's Actor and Ainz? If the talent functions the way I believe it does, no, he would not, because Pandora's Actor is still able to use 10th tier magic when he's transformed as Ainz, so they would both come across as having the same aura level. Interesting question there. I think that had more to do with how it was visualized in the anime, and it never really got all that explained that much in the anime. The most they say about it is Arshay and how she can just tell the level, I guess, is how they described it in the anime. But that was my understanding of the talent, is that it lets you see the tier of magic that the person you're looking at is capable of. Great question. What is the World Champion class? Is it a class or a title? So the World Champion class is both of those things. It is a job class and it is a title. So basically, when you have the job class, you get the title World Champion. Prime example of this is Touch Me, who was the World Champion of Alfheim, which is one of the 9 worlds in Yggdrasil. And the way he earned that title is he won a developer-sanctioned tournament, and that gave him the job class World Champion along with the title. And he also received his armor through that tournament as well. It's an extremely powerful class. I mean, Ainz described Touch Me as the strongest player in Yggdrasil, so that just goes to show you how powerful that job class is. So technically, it's both. It's both a class and a title. Great question. What are other nations in the New World that haven't been touched on? Oh, there are plenty of those. They touch on more in the light novel than they do in the anime, because in the light novel, there's several brief intermission chapters that take place in some of the more obscure countries. We get one in the Dragon Kingdom. We also get one in the City-State Alliance. I actually recently made a video going over the known map of the New World, where I kind of talk and mention several of the other minor countries that hadn't really been explored in the Overlord story yet, if you want to check that out. To list off a few, we have the Arglan Council State, which is directly to the north of the Riestes Kingdom, several countries that are in the desert that's in the south of the Slain Theocracy, the Great Kingdom of of Pabalsag is one of them. There's also the nation Slutarn. Going east past the Dragon Kingdom, we have the Beastman country, the Beastman Commonwealth, the Great Minotaur Nation, the Troll Kingdom. We also have the Equestrian Kingdom, which is to the northeast of the City-State Alliance. There's tons and tons of nations. If you want more information on that, you should check out my New World Map Explained video. But yes, the world is absolutely massive, way bigger than what has been explored in the story. Great question. In one of your videos, you said 10 levels is a huge gap. So how can Pandora's actors' 80 level restriction and shapeshifting hold up to other Floored Guardians, since he can't use those better spells and skills unlocked at higher levels like 90 or 100? Also, can we safely assume that Roberto is the strongest being in the light novel, or at least in PvP? So to quickly answer the second part of your question, Roberto is the strongest NPC, period, in Nazarick to our knowledge. That is what has been described about her. As for is she the strongest being, period, in the light novel? I mean, I would say she's in the top contenders, but we just don't know a lot about the power restrictions, and also with how the Dragon Lords kind of work. There's also the Dragon Emperor, who's crazy and apparently goes over level 100 in terms of power, but we don't even know where he is. So there's too many mysteries in the light novel, I think, to safely conclude that Roberto is the strongest, but she's probably a top contender for one of the strongest creatures in the entire Overlord universe. As for the first part of your question, I think that was my fault. I didn't explain how Pandora's actors kind of like scaling worked. The way I understand it is when he transforms into someone, he gets all of their stats, so all of their stats stay the same on him. So their defense, their offense, their magic attack, magic defense, that all stays the same. The only thing that changes is his HP, MP, and his special ability. As for the spells themselves, he uses them at not level 80, but 80% potency. So 80% potency of a level 100 wouldn't be exactly scaled down to a level 80, because a level 80 is more than 20% weaker than a level 100. The power would be less than level 100, but substantially more than level 80, because the potency is 80%. Not it doesn't scale down 20 levels like that. That was my mistake. That's how his powers work. His magic attack, magic defense, all those offensive and defensive numbers stay exactly the same as the person he's copying. His HP, MP, and special abilities scale a bit. I'm not entirely sure on the numbers of those. And then the actual abilities he's using, the potency is 80% of the normal. So it would probably be like in the 90s. And as for him holding up against other Floor Guardians, because his powers are so versatile, he could basically just become the worst matchup possible for anyone that he's fighting, which is what makes Pandora's actor so powerful. His powers aren't in brute force. Great question on very interesting powers of a character. Oh, this is a great one to end off on. Can you explain what karma actually does, and if it's possible for Satoru and the other characters from Nazarick to change the value of said characteristic? Okay, so karma is a huge mechanic from Yggdrasil. I could make a whole video talking about karma, so I'll give kind of a brief explanation here. So the way I understood karma and how it worked in Yggdrasil is that it was basically kind of like a metadata value that scaled for certain spells and actions that you could take when you were playing the game. Because there were a lot of mechanics in Yggdrasil that relied on your karma value to determine their scaling effect. Like, for example, you had to have a karma value of blank in order to use this sword. You had to have a karma value of blank in order to use this skill. This spell will have more of an effect on a person with this karma value versus this karma value. Perfect example of this came from my most recent content breakdown of the Sacred Kingdom, Remedios' Holy Attack. It scales based on the karma value of the opponent. The more negative it is, the stronger it is, and that's why it didn't have very much of an effect on Vahar, and it would have had way more of an effect on Nazarene or Harisha. Karma was used in Yggdrasil and is still used in the New World to determine a lot of interactions between skills, weapons, spells, things like that. As for is it possible to change the values of them, the way I understood it in Yggdrasil is it changed based on the karma values of the creatures that you kill. So if you kill positive aligned creatures in Yggdrasil, you would gain negative karma and vice versa. That's the way I believe it worked in Yggdrasil. So as for how karma affects people in the New World, I think it has more to do with their sense of morality. And for the NPCs specifically, it affects their ways of thinking. It'll make them more predisposed to thinking certain ways, depending on how their karma is. As for can it be changed in the New World, I also think the answer is yes, because I think that's why Renaer poisoned all those orphanage kids in season 4, she needed to change her karma or generate like some sort of evil, energy or something like that in order for her race change to go through. But because the new world is now a real world, I think it has more to do with just like changes in your morality and changes in your way of thinking, because like now that these people are actually alive, the karma values and their karma alignment is more to do with just, is their personality going to change, and are the ways they approach things going to change, and the way they act going to change, things like that. It's more organic than it was than just, oh, you do this one action, your number increases, like in Yggdrasil. Kind of hard to say for the new world because that hasn't been specifically detailed or anything like that. So in summary, in the new world and in Yggdrasil, karma functions as sort of a metadata calculator for the interactions of various different things, for weapons, skills, magic, all those types of things. And in Yggdrasil and in the new world, I believe they both can be changed. It's just in the new world, it's more of an organic, lifestyle thing as opposed to just a number that it was in Yggdrasil. Wonderful question on something that I think is overlooked a good bit in the Overlord world. So guys, with that amazing question, we're going to end off here. Another great batch of wonderful questions. Thank you all so much. You guys know the drill. Leave your thoughts and further questions in the comment section below. I love to hear from you guys. If you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see another one like it, please like the video to let me know. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching to the very end of the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.